Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur Podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Beau Young, who is a social media manager. And we are going to be diving into how to balance business whilst also being a mum. Beau, it's absolutely fantastic to have you here on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kayleigh. It's lovely to be here. Excited.
Exciting to talk about today's topic. And I know that so many of our listeners will be able to relate to this topic about how do we balance business and motherhood. But before we dive into the actual topic, I would love to know a little bit more about you, your story and your journey. So can you share with our listeners your journey specifically and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yes, of course. So I am 35 years old and I've got 4 children, married and live down in Kent. And I started my business back in 2019 after the birth of my second daughter. I was a business support manager for a big plastic surgery clinic. And whilst on maternity leave, it was quite clear that I wasn't able to come back full time. And they didn't have the capacity for me to be flexible working, which in hindsight, when COVID happened, you could do flexible working. But so I decided to take my skills and utilize them initially as a virtual assistant, but very quickly moved on to social media and Wix website design. I kind of found my passion for those. They took off really, really well. Developed my skills with some more courses, did a lot of networking, and then fell pregnant with my twins back in 2023. Had a huge roller coaster with them. To cut a long story short, we were having weekly scans from 12 weeks. We nearly lost one at 23 weeks. We nearly lost both at 25 weeks, and then I had to have them at 30 weeks. So they then spent a lot of time in special care. So work still carried on because I was self-employed. I never took maternity leave. After the C-section with the twins, I was in my hospital bed on my laptop working because there was nothing else for me to do. So it was then navigating motherhood with 4 children and hospital appointments and therapy appointments, and also going through postnatal depression, PTSD from the pregnancy and birth, and the trauma of special care. But yeah, we're slowly getting through all of it now. They're 20 months old. The appointments haven't stopped. They carry on, but they've kind of just slotted into our lives, and that is our life now. So it is about balancing everything around really the boys at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What a journey. And, and you're obviously a very incredible woman and very strongly minded woman as well. And female entrepreneur as well. You've built this business around your family and you're still continuing to absolutely thrive. So I would love to talk about balance because I feel like this is something, like I said earlier, that so many people will be able to resonate with, but you've obviously been able to do it yourself so successfully.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about some of the biggest challenges, first of all? So I think both you and I could very openly talk about some of the challenges of being a mompreneur and trying to balance, social media, business, cooking, nappy changes, bath time. Let's dive into this. What would you say some of the biggest challenges are as mompreneurs?
Children's sickness. So I've got 2 children at school. The boys kind of come hand to hand and I balance my work around their appointments. So that's quite easy because I know that's happening at a certain time. The illnesses, however, they just come at you like it's just insane. And you get calls from school to say pick your child up. My second born had glandular fever a few months ago and she was off school for 2 weeks, ended up in hospital as well. So it's just, I kind of forget about the older two because they're so self-sufficient, but
Yeah.
actually I end up in hospital with those two. So I think it's balancing the unexpected and the unknown. And I've never been very good at not being in control of situations.
Yeah.
So like with the pregnancy, it was completely out of my control. And I found that really, really difficult. But then everything else kind of slots into place and I can manage that. I think with sickness, you just have to have clients that understand that you are a parent.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That understanding is key, and
yeah,
knowing that it's going to happen.
yeah,
Unfortunately, you know, it's a little bit out of our control, but we have to prioritize and put our children first.
hmm definitely. And I know full well there's no way I could ever work in an office employed again
Yeah.
because of my family dynamic now.
Yes.
So my business has to work around me, and I do make that very clear to clients. I have very strict boundaries now, which I never used to have. I'd be working past midnight and just constant on the go. But now it is very clear. As long as you set that boundary initially,
Mhm.
then it is usually respected quite well. And they don't seem to mind. And I mean, I managed to get everything out on time, batch
Yeah.
create content. Yeah.
So how would you say in terms of because I know that you're managing and you're balancing that so well, even with children's sicknesses. Well, let's talk about time, how to manage that time. Because I think between client work, for example, creating content, maybe client calls, and
Mhm.
spending that quality time with your children and your family, do
Mhm.
you have a specific routine or any strategies that help you to manage that time?
I do. So luckily the boys go to childminders 3 days a week.
Mhm.
Um, but that's only been since September.
Mhm.
So mainly through the summer holidays with all four of the children. With the girls, it was easy because I could say, Mummy's going to work for this hour. So could you do a child-led activity?
Mhm.
And then let's do a family-led activity
Mhm.
after this hour. So they were very easy just to manage. But I tend to do a lot of my initial emails planning for the week on a Monday.
Mhm.
Um, I don't like to do calls really on a Monday because I like to just completely organize my life.
Yeah.
Make sure that I've got my diaries in check, they're all up to date with work commitments, appointments, anything to do with school. I'm also on the PTA as well, so I
Oh,
just
wow.
it's just
Extra
crazy.
responsibilities.
I just like a challenge, really. So yeah, I think you do have to have a structure, but also make it quite fluid as well, so that you just for those unexpected moments, you don't end up in a panic. Because that's so easy to be done. And I used to be, so for example, on a Monday, if I had to do a load of social media content creation, because I like to do that on a Monday as well, if something happened where I had to go to pick up one of the children, I used to go into a complete panic. And rather than my focus being on the child, my focus was on the client and their expectations.
Yeah.
And then I would have mum guilt on top of that, and my whole day would be completely messed and I wouldn't be able to focus. So now, as long as I get the skeleton done for the day, if an unexpected thing happens, I know that I can recover that and manage it either in the evening or the following day. But I like to just have that skeleton done. If something happens where I literally cannot work on a Monday, then I do have to give communication to the clients.
Yes.
Communication is absolutely key, even if it's negative, and work the following day.
Mm.
Definitely.
Just really having that clear structure in terms of,
Hmm
I love the fact that you said as well, Mondays, it's almost as if it's like your CEO day, the organization day and getting everything in place. Love
hmm
that. I think that's some great advice in terms of what people could potentially do themselves, or at least on reflection of what you do.
hmm
So I feel like overwhelm is something that a lot of us as mumpreneurs can experience, especially when we're in the position of building or scaling businesses. So we're kind
Mhm.
of in that growth stage, as I would call it.
Mhm.
What advice could you give other mums who want to grow either their social media, because I know that's something you really specialize in, but or their business in general, but feel overwhelmed with the demands of being a parent? Is there any advice
Yeah,
you give?
I think with being growing your own business, you need to tackle one thing at a time.
Mm.
So I have a client who is building a course, building an ebook, wants to do a masterclass, and it's a lot of work. And obviously, you've got the marketing to go into that as well. So it's taking one topic at a time and really focusing on that. Because if you have too many ducks in a row,
Yeah.
none of those are going to get quality.
Mm.
It's just too much. And you do have the expectation, especially as a female, to grow as big as possible and be as powerful as possible in a short amount of time. You don't need to do that. I think as long as your bills are getting paid, as long
Yes.
as your kids are happy and healthy, your other half, if you're married or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is present with you and you give them attention too, that's you're rich then, I think. I
Mm.
used to want to be able to earn millions and millions, but actually, as long as I have a roof over my head and my children are happy and everything around me is kind of slotted in nicely, I feel quite rich in myself. And then the money is bonus. If I can afford luxury items afterwards, that's the bonus. But definitely going back to it, you just have to take one step at a time and have a real strategy with how you're going to market it. Um,
It's
so
being
that.
really organized, isn't it? Being really organized and batch creating and
Mhm.
considering what you can do in advance,
Mhm.
being ahead of the game ultimately, isn't it? So that because the last thing we want to do is, again, feel overwhelmed, be in a bit of a panic. But I think I love that in terms of just really being super organized and just thinking about how you can manage your time, but
Mhm.
effectively so, and planning in advance, which is, which is really important. And I think something else that people feel quite overwhelmed with is online, social media. So
Mhm.
I personally believe that, I think when you go online on social media, it's almost as if it's the expectation that you have to show up every single day and you have to show your face and you have to post and you have to show on your stories and do 5 to 10 stories a day or whatever, whatever you assume is the correct thing to do.
Mhm.
I would love to know your opinion on this, being a social media manager. How can we manage that pressure from social media or this expectation of having to show our faces and just look immaculate on camera
Mhm.
all the time? Because let's be real, as a mum, regardless of how many kids you've got and at what age they are, whenever we're doing the school walk, our hair's going to go crazy. Sometimes we'll do the tie your hair up just to
Mhm.
get out the way while you're running around with the kids. What is it? What is, let's talk about that a little bit. I just want to dive into that in terms of the expectation
Oh,
and how to manage that.
well, I mean, just today, all I've done is popped a bit of mascara on, put a top on, and I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms underneath this, so very much
I love
cozy.
it.
And working from home, I am very much a cozy worker. I like to be cozy. If I am doing a content day and visiting clients, then I will make myself up. But what you see is what you get with me. If
Mm.
you are, and I mean, I am still the face of my brand,
Yes.
but my niche is parents, really. And
Mm.
you can't be on your most glamorous day all the time. It's just completely unreasonable, I think. And if you've got the time to do that every single day, then you should be posting instead. So that's how I think. But I mean, in terms of posting every single day and being present every single day, in an ideal world, that is key to growth.
Mhm.
Um, if you look on my Instagram, I've not posted in ages, but I am still there. I'm just very busy with work. And unless you have either the time to create the content or the money to outsource to a social media manager, it is almost impossible to be present every single day. And I mean, for women especially, you've got um, definitely what affects me is the menstrual cycle. I'll have one week in a month where I just feel like rubbish, and I tend not to do big tasks in that week. Um, and that's been for the last few months. I've kind of worked that way. Just think there's no point. As long as I've got everything else done, let's just be cozy for a week and be happy and be mindful of myself and self-care. And that's the important thing. But yeah, in terms of social media, it is good to be posting, I would say, at least 3 to 4 times a week, quality content. Don't just post for the sake of posting. It has to give some, you have to feel passionate about it. So you've got to give some education, some tips before and after if you're in beauty or anything where you can give that content out. If you want to be fun, you can be fun, but I think that's mainly for TikTok now.
Yes.
Instagram is more about the quality of content. But it does get really, really overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes I get that imposter syndrome where I see other social media managers and they're constantly posting all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time. But they usually have a team behind them. I
Yes.
know a lot of them that have teams behind them, which is great. At the moment, I'm not at that point where I want to be outsourcing. I like to do everything myself. And because it is just me, why do I want to overwhelm myself with an abundance of clients and feel that pressure? And then that takes away from my family time. So it's kind of just, it is having that balance. You don't have to be on it constantly.
And how can you, I know that, again, we talked a little bit earlier in terms of, managing your time and, batch creation, for example, and things like that. Are there any tips that you can give? Because I think like that helps, doesn't it, in terms of not having to feel like you have to post physically every single day.
Mhm.
Any tips around batch creating content or automating tasks at all as a mum?
So I love AI. I
Hmm.
really like ChatGPT,
Yeah.
or Claude.
Mhm.
Um, and the key is not to rely on it for everything. I would say, if I'm a mum and I own a beauty salon, for example, I would say to ChatGPT, I am a beauty salon owner. I need to create a month's worth of content relating to these types of treatments because they're the ones that are selling or they're the ones that maybe need a bit more oomph with them. Can you give me some content ideas based around carousel, statics, and reels? I want it to sound professional, but also build a rapport with my client. So you really want to just really describe everything that you want, and then it will come up with a whole content calendar for you. And you can then pick and choose, and you can either say, because usually they give titles of use this carousel in week one, use this. So then you highlight that and say, can you elaborate on this for me, please? But I want it to mention this call to action. I want it to have this type of language. So you're not taking everything that AI is saying, you're kind of, it's kind of your own copywriter, really. That's how you're using it. And then just develop it how you want. You're doing the pictures, you're doing the design. I mean, I've even done one for the PTA for raffle prizes. And like, can you give me an idea for a poster? Because my mind was completely blank. And you're allowed to do that. You are completely allowed to do that. Just don't copy word from word.
And it's incredible what it can create,
Mm.
in terms of AI. I know so many people that now use it or chat GPT and things. And I
Mm.
think it's great to give you ideas ultimately. I definitely think, I mean, I know a number of my clients use it.
Mm.
And it's great for that kind of just initial ideas and just to kind of get the brain going. And then once you've got that ideas, you can tailor it. You can write them out however you want to plan the content, basically. But I think it's a really, really good idea. And are there
Mm.
any sort of systems or tools or even automation systems that you use or that you could recommend for people that, again, are struggling a little bit of time and balance?
Yeah, I like Asana.
Yeah,
Asana's
sounds
really
great.
good. I
Yeah.
use Asana every single day. And mainly I do that. Actually, I do that for everything. Website design, um, virtual assistants, and social media. I'll have it in the column sections, so block sections rather than lists. Um, and I will do my weekly strategies on there. I would put all of my hashtags on there so that they're easy just to copy and paste. Also, Trello is very similar, still very good. In terms of scheduling, you've got the Meta Business Suite that links Facebook and Instagram, which is good. Bit glitchy sometimes, so I don't always depend on that. Metrical is amazing for scheduling. It doesn't affect the algorithm. And you can use Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Google Business, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can schedule all of those, and then you can edit for like the different designs on there as well, and wording. So those are my top three, I think, would be. In terms of content, I use CapCut for videos.
Yeah. Brilliant. I use CapCut all the
Really,
time. It's
really
great.
good.
Super simple.
So really simple, really easy to use. You can do it on your phone or your computer. Captions is a really good app to add captions. You can develop it so you can have your own branding on it. It's amazing. Repost is good because when you're looking for trending videos or trending audio on Instagram, you just download Repost, copy the link, it will paste it onto there, save the video, and then you can extract that audio and pop it into CapCut. Much better. Same with TikTok, you can use Save Tick, is really good.
I've not heard of that one before. Save tip.
Very,
Brilliant.
very good.
So loads of incredible
Yeah.
systems and tools there, just worth so much just listening to some of your, your guidance there and some of the ideas that potentially that people can kind of look down to help with planning, help with automations, help with reposting and posting on different platforms. So that's great advice. I want to dive a little bit more into the kind of the mindset and the mum guilt, because I feel like, again, this is something that we as mumpreneurs can often experience because we do, I think, when we work and we're working for ourselves, so there's no 9 till 5, and quite often we can have this little bit of mum guilt because we feel that our business requires that extra bit of time, or we just need to finish this one email or X, Y, and Z. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the mum guilt side of things?
I always have mum guilt. I don't think you can ever overcome that. I've seen I think I saw a TikTok not that long ago where it had husband and wife in the bed. Husband goes to sleep thinking, oh, got to get up for work tomorrow. The mum's lying in bed thinking, work, what I did a year ago that didn't work. What am I cooking for dinner this week? What I did with my children 5 years ago that I feel really guilty about still, and I still talk about it and still think about it, and our heads just explode constantly.
Yes.
So in terms of the mum guilt, I'd say during the week, if you've got children at school, they are at school. You do not have to worry about them. That's when you want to get the bulk of your work done. Then when they come home, I would say they go a bit nuts for about an hour. And that's when work is put down, definitely put down for that hour. And actually, I tend to do it up until they go to bed, because if I try to do a task whilst the kids are from school, you've got dinner, bath, bed, in those kind of hours, you just get distracted, and that's when errors can occur. So wait till they've gone to bed, do maybe an hour or so, and then chill with your partner or chill by yourself and have that time to yourself, and you don't have to feel guilty about that. Then we've got on a weekend, I do work a weekend, not all the time and not all day. So on a Saturday, my second has got gymnastics at 8:30. So I take her to that because I absolutely love watching her do her gymnastics. And then we go and get a gingerbread man afterwards because that's her routine. She loves that. So that's spending time with mummy. And then my husband will usually take the girls out for breakfast because they have to be, in our situation, they're very hands-on and they are young carers to their brothers. They do get not forgotten about, but the boys' needs are very, very huge
Yes.
because they've both got disabilities as well. So we have a lot of medication. We were on high alert 24/7. So the girls are very, very good at helping with the boys, but we do have to remember they're only 9 and 6. and their children. So it's finding time to actually do activities with them without the boys. The boys are fine. They're 20 months old. They're just babies. It's up until I think when they get to around 4, that's when mentally they start remembering kind of negative situations or start having those feelings towards feeling a bit lonely and left out. So
Yes.
that's when you really need to kind of start giving them that time. And it's really important. And as I've said, you do have to have those boundaries with your clients. And when you are family time, that is family time. But the mum guilt will still be there, no matter what.
We always feel guilty. We always
Yeah.
do. But I totally agree. Having those boundaries and having a routine and
Mm,
allowing yourself to have that time with your family is just
mm,
absolutely, and your children's just so important, isn't it? I think
mm,
that's definitely something I used to struggle with. Not at all anymore, actually, because those boundaries are in place. But I did used to struggle. And I think it was purely because I didn't set the boundaries and I
mhm,
didn't have, although I planned to have set time with my daughter, it was
mm,
something that I struggled with at the beginning, especially because I was juggling another career as well and so many
mhm.
things. So I think just making sure you schedule in that time
Yeah.
is the best way, isn't it? And then you won't have that mum guilt because you know that time is your time with your kids.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, I really, really like that. So you've given us some incredible tips for this podcast episode in terms of how to really balance, your own experiences as a mumpreneur as well. Some of the systems, some of the tools, how we can really effectively run a business whilst also being a mum. What would
Mhm.
be kind of like your final piece of advice for our mumpreneurs who are listening to this podcast?
I think a final piece of advice for mumpreneurs is you are incredible. I think you need to take some time to actually appreciate how incredible you are, that you are running a business and full time, you're a parent. So that is a job in itself. So to be able to adapt and build your own brand, bring in your own money, not have to rely on anybody else or have a boss above you
Mm.
is so huge, and it's a lot of responsibility and commitment to have that. So I think give yourself a pat on the back is probably the best advice, and just know that no matter what, you are doing an amazing job. And yeah, but in terms of work, batch create is key. Just like batch cooking, I think is key
Yeah.
for families.
Yeah.
So do the same. I mean,
Take some
especially the
time.
winter months, you've got casseroles and everything. So I like the slow cooker going all the time, batch create the food, batch create your work. So just kind of use your skills in different ways.
I love this.
Mm,
Amazing piece of advice. And absolutely, as you said there before mentioning the whole batch creating, but giving themselves a pat on the back and just absolutely celebrate who you are, because I think being a mum is a job in its own. And
yeah.
then you're having a business, building a business or growing it or scaling it wherever you are on your journey, but you've basically got 2 full-time jobs there. And I think it's such an incredible thing to be able to do as a mumpreneur, to balance both and both successfully. And I think that everyone gives it their best possible
Mhm.
chance and shot. And it's a case of just remembering that some of the people that you see online who are doing incredible things and fitting in all of these trips to Dubai, etc., they're not necessarily mumpreneurs. And
Mhm.
that's something to remember as well, because I feel like the comparison theory pops up quite frequently for people.
Yes.
But when we're mums and we're having to do school pickups and trips to the doctors and the dentist and all these things, I think it's a very different kettle of fish. And I think it's just that reminder of how incredible you are doing by doing both.
Definitely. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than taking all of my kids over to Dubai at the moment. So
No,
that would not be a holiday.
no, just yeah, definitely a something maybe for the future. Let's just
Yes.
say that. Oh, Bo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I've got one more question to ask you.
Mhm.
And I ask all of my guests this question at the end of the podcast episodes. What is your one word of the year and why?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I would say confidence is the word of the year. And
Mm.
that's confidence in knowing that you are an incredible mum, that you are an incredible business owner. And even I find that when you become a mum, you lose a part of yourself, and it's kind of regaining that, no matter how you do it, whether you take up going to the gym, whether you build a brand, whether you go on the PTA to meet new people, having that confidence to do it and belief that you can do that is incredible. So definitely confidence this year.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, my lovely. And where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
So on Instagram, I am at Elevate Socials UK, and my website is www.elevate-management.co.uk.
Amazing. Go and give Beau a follow, connect with her. She's incredible at what she does, especially if you're looking for any social media management support. Beau, it's been an absolute pleasure, should I say. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone that's tuned in to today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.